Hi everyone, my name is Eran Kinsbruner and I'm truly excited to be back at TestFlix 2022. And today in this short atomic talk, I'm going to talk a bit about strategy for acing your continuous testing in Agile or DevOps. And it's very challenging to do it in just 10 to 12 minutes, but I'll do my best to give you the fundamentals. If you have any questions, please feel free either during this session or afterwards to reach out to me via social media or any other channel, and we can continue the conversation also after this session. So just a quick word about myself. My name is Eran Kinsbruner. I'm a chief evangelist for Perfecto and BlazeMeter under Perforce. I'm an author of 4 books. These are the books. All of them are surrounding continuous testing, testing strategies, also testing tools that can help you be more professional in the way you are doing your test automation. If you have any questions about myself or the books, again, feel free to ask me. In today's session, I'm going to talk a bit about the main challenges that we are seeing. And these are the challenges that, in my mind, are blocking continuous testing maturity because everyone is trying to do test automation at scale. And they're sometimes confusing test automation with continuous testing. Test automation is just one pillar or enabler for continuous testing. I'm going to make some order in these terms, but also look at how these challenges sometimes slow down maturity models that organizations are trying to accomplish in their journeys. I'm going to differentiate between the planning aspects of continuous testing and the process-related pillars in continuous testing. Obviously, they are complementing each other, but they need to be understood separately. And finally, I'm going to leave you with some of my continuous testing methodologies, my belief. Being in this space for almost 22 years now, I think I've got a few objectives and I've learned a few things that I hope will help you guys. And Q&A, you can do it throughout this entire session. Let's start with why it's so hard to achieve continuous testing. And if you're not familiar with this ocean of software testing, I like this visual because it tells a story about why it's so hard to do this continuous testing at scale across so many different releases of product versions. So when you're looking at the ocean of testing, obviously testing is a moment in time, which means you're testing version 1 of your software, you're testing a build, you're testing after a pull request was merged into the major branch or repository. But then what are you actually doing from a testing perspective, and who is doing the testing? It obviously impacts the balance between manual, exploratory, and automated testing, and you need all of those to be successful in less bugs and defects slipping to production. You need the right mix of manual and automated testing, and you need to also look backward and forward with regards to product history and product roadmap and vision, so you can really get it right. And this calibration and validation of this ocean of testing needs to happen continuously. And I'm giving you a teaser. It also involves a bit of the planning that I'm going to talk about very soon. But you need to always learn new things. You need to explore your software and you need to learn new things. And if you're just reusing test cases because they're just there, you are wasting time and resources. You're not really learning anything about the software under test, and you want to obviously fix that. So the ocean of testing needs to help you guide the right balance across each and every software version between manual, exploratory, automated testing, and it's across all testing types. I'm not mentioning here whether it's functional, performance, API, accessibility, visual user experience, etc. Okay. Unfortunately, in the reality, and this is what we have learned within Perfecto and BlazeMeter over the past 2 years, we have learned that people are still putting very high in their top challenges the test prioritization, the resources for testing, and resources can be people, that there can be also machines, right? Environments for testing or test data, if you like. Test stability, okay? How can we eliminate this annoying word called flakiness, right? How can we make sure that our pipeline is stable and we're not really merging noise into this pipeline continuously, okay? Obviously, async test coverage is key in my mind to really identifying the right and high priority bugs earlier in the cycle. That's the shift left that we are going to touch also pretty soon. And something which is consistently on the table is test analysis, deciphering why tests are failing. Understanding the root cause of a failure is key to improve the next cycle, the next software iteration. So getting the right visibility and getting actionable insights is another huge problem and a challenge for many practitioners that I'm speaking with day in and day out. If you're going to, jump into the journey of continuous testing, you need to look at this blue sky, okay? From legacy testing towards continuous testing, this is how it looks like. This is the journey that organizations needs to build the software, the people, processes, technology, everything that is within the organization needs to support this model, in my mind, if you want to really accomplish continuous testing, because continuous testing allows you to do testing per each and every code change, okay? In opposed to just testing every build or just testing once a day, if you're doing continuous testing, your infrastructure should enable you to do testing upon each code change that your developer, front end, back end, doesn't matter, made to the software. So jumping from left to right requires a lot of things, and this is exactly what we're going to talk about in this session. We're going to talk about how planning and process comes together and what you need to consider per each of these pillars. When you're talking about planning, these are the 5 things. Obviously, there are more, but in my mind, let's start. If you just focus on these 5, you'll be in a better shape than most organizations are today. So when you're talking about planning talks about, okay, what I'm going to cover. And if you look at this list, you see that I have 2 bullets here, test coverage and testing types. I deliberately separated coverage and testing types. Both of them complement each other. Both of them are test coverage, right? You can cover functional, accessibility, API, as we mentioned earlier, but on what platforms and which environments are you covering these test cases is a different story. So you need to plan the test coverage on which platforms, mobile, web, desktop, whatever system that you have under test. You need to understand which platforms are under use, which platforms are at risk that you need to make sure that they are in your lab, in your test environments, which environments you need to set up with supporting test data, mocking services, and all these things that enable you to do the proper level of testing. Second, test certification for stability. This is something that you need to plan, okay? This is something very critical. And in my mind, the planning starts in the early implementation of the testing, right? People might be still using test design documentation, or they're just looking at user stories, and based on the user stories, they're creating test cases. But you need to make sure that you are certifying test scenarios, making sure that you're not adding noise to your pipeline. I added here this nice out of context visual, 3 strikes and you are out, right? If you have a test case which doesn't perform in a stable and reliable way, it doesn't need to be merged into the pipeline, right? You need to make sure that each test that you need to be very picky. Each test that makes it into your CI/CD pipeline was certified. It doesn't fail and pass per each environment, per each platform. It's very consistent in what it tells you. And if it fails, you should be quite confident that it is probably a defect in your system, okay? As much as you can. Testing types, that's the other layer of coverage. You need to cover all the test pyramid, in my mind, throughout the pipeline, and you need to cover the right scenarios based on the user stories, based on the persona that you are targeting your product towards, okay? If you're building a software for like a retail website, you need to understand that there are going to be users from different age types, different geographies, different platforms, web and mobile and desktop, right? You need to make sure that you are covering those scenarios in your test plan. Testing tools, okay? You need to plan which tools are you going to use, because if you're not planning, you're not installing, you're not providing these tools. I'm not talking here just about budget. availability of the tools, sometimes licenses, sufficient resources, number of VMs, whatever you need, then you are not starting your cycle, your software iteration in a good shape. Test data, plan for test data. If you know that you have a very sophisticated environment to test, you need to make sure that you are populating enough data through CSVs. Recently, BlazeMeter launched what they call test data as a service within their cloud solution. So you can do unlimited test data creation and inject it into your continuous testing pipeline, making sure that you're covering happy path, negative path, edge cases, and everything that you care about. And lastly, plan for measurements and KPI. Make sure that you are always in the know of what is your goal, what you want to cover, what is a success criteria looking like, etc. Coverage from platforms. This is something that I look at, and I'm not going to dive deep, but we're just in the era of Android and iOS recent mobile platforms. You need to be aware of those. These platforms are in beta for many months, like you see here. Utilize the beta versions, understand what's going on, so you can be better prepared. With regards to the second layer, we talked here about planning. Let's talk a bit about the strategy. And this is the people, process, and technologies. And what I liked about this visual, this is not a new visual, but what I liked when I looked for this image was what Enrico Dolphin stated is the order of looking at these things, from people through process and technology. When looking at people, making sure that your resources, the most valuable resources, the test engineers, have the right training, they have the right education. Again, BlazeMeter University, there are other free online universities. Make sure that you are consistently investing in the people so they have the right skill set, they have the right knowledge, so they can be better engineers for your product. From a process perspective, and this is key, you need to make sure that you are building everything that we talked about earlier, all the plans. This is where things come together, right? All the plans that we talked about earlier, which looks at coverage, tools, measurements, timeline within the sprint, and everything falls into this nice visual. And here you can see in this example, a smoke test happens every pull request through an automated fashion. Maybe here you just run on virtual simulators and emulators. You're just running API testing and some other small subset of functional testing. You just have 10 minutes in a day. But then you have the noon build. It enables you to do a 1 hour build of regression testing that gives you the confidence towards the evening, which is the nightly regression, which can run for 8 to 10 hours, and it has much more coverage. But you see the process here. You see the pull request cycle, the noon build cycle, and the nightly regression. While it seems simple, it requires a lot of planning, a lot of strategy, and a lot of stability within the pipeline. But when you are building the stability throughout the day, your nightly regressions should be of higher value than without this strategy and structure. Technology, we talked about people and process. Technology, if you don't have the right skills, either through education or the right tools within your organization, you will fail, okay? You need to make sure that if you're building a web application or a mobile application, you need to equip your engineers with the right technology, with the right language bindings that they feel confident writing scripts in. And this is how you do it. If you are not matching, and you don't need to limit yourself to just one technology. The open source today enables you to do so much testing across so many different tools, and you have obviously the manual and exploratory testing. But make sure that you are enabling your engineers to pick and choose from different technologies. When you're looking at the people, process, technology, you're looking at the planning. If you're doing the right things as I listed, I know it's hard. You can climb up and down the test pyramid, and that's the mantra of continuous testing. Doing this continuous infinite loop of building, testing, and releasing to production upon demand, very quick, in an automated fashion as much as possible, but exercising all the testing types from end-to-end integration, unit, API, etc. Lastly, if you do it properly, you are able to shift left your testing. You're able to do much more things earlier through the right planning. You are able to identify different defects across user experience, accessibility, APIs, security, functionality, and much more. And you gain by saving costs, releasing high quality products to production, having more availability of your engineers to focus on the next user stories rather than just looking at bugs. Measurements. We talked a bit about KPIs. This is what I'm leaving you behind. These are just few metrics that I've collected over the years, which helps across speed, quality, and cost engineers and managers to release software in a higher fashion, in higher quality. So with that, I would like to finish this very short, we call it Atomic Talk, about continuous testing strategy and how you can be successful by looking at planning, process, building them together towards a continuous testing that really works. Thank you. And if you have any questions, now that's the right time.